Hi guys, so in today's video we are going to cover unit circle, alright? And unit circle means that we are going to learn about the relationship between the location of the angle and the value of the trig function at that point, right? So when we look at unit circle, right, it says it is unit circle. Unit means the radius of the circle is 1. That's the first point. Now let's find the sine and cosine in terms of the unit circle, right? So let us suppose this angle here is theta. We don't know that angle yet. So let us suppose the angle is theta, and let's draw a perpendicular down there. So this distance is x because that is your x-axis, and the perpendicular is y, let us suppose, because that's y-axis, right? So now in this case, if we find sine theta and cos theta, we can say the hypotenuse is 1. So sine theta will be equals to opposite, which is y, over hypotenuse. So here's we can say sine theta is equals to y, right? And similarly we can find cos theta, which will be equal to the adjacent, which is x, over hypotenuse 1. So that gives us cos theta is equals to x, right? So at this point we can say the coordinates can be cos theta sine theta, right? Because it is x comma y. Okay. All right, so we will be using a few new terms in here. So just so you know, we will be using initial side, all right, and that is the base of the angle. So initial side of an angle, right, and that is the base, and usually the initial side will be taken as positive x-axis, all right? And then that there is a terminal side, and terminal side is where the angle ends. So in this case it's this purple line here, and that is the terminal side, all right? So we will be using these terms quite a bit, terminal sides and initial side, all right? So just keep in mind those are the few new terms we will be using in here. Okay, so far we have found the x-axis and the y-axis, which is the cos theta and sine theta that we have got. Okay, now we know that the radius is 1, right? So at this point we can find the coordinate of this point as well. So the coordinate of that point is the x-axis. Your entire x-axis here is 1 because it's the radius, and y-axis is 0, all right? So at this point you can say cos 0 degree, because it is 0, the angle is 0 here. So cos 0 is equals to 1, and sine 0 is equals to 0, right? So we have found that as well in this circle. Okay, now let's go 90 degrees. So if we go 90 degrees, we're going to get this line here. At this line, if we try and find the coordinates, we can see that x-axis now becomes 0 and y-axis becomes 1, right? So at this point we can say that cos 90 degree is equals to 0 and sine 90 degrees is equals to 1, because now the angle is 90 degrees, right? And the first value is cos theta, the second value is sine theta. So we have got that as well, all right? Now next let's go to the another 90 degrees. So that's going to be 180 degrees. So if we go 180 degree here, we can say that x-axis now becomes, so if that point is 0, right, 1 here, so it's going to be -1, okay, and your y-axis is again 0 here, right? And the angle here is now 180 degrees, and 180 degrees in the radian can be written as pi as well, right? Or you can write 180 degree now. So we have cos 180 degrees is equals to -1, and sine 180 degrees is equals to 0, right? So let's start writing in the radians form as well, just to make our life easy. So cos 0 will be cos 0 radians as well, right? So that is going to be 1, whereas cos 90 degree is going to be cos pi over 2, okay, which is 0, and cos pi will be equals to minus 1, all right? And similarly, sine 0 radians is 0, sine pi over 2 is equals to 1, and sine pi is equals to 0 again, all right? So we are trying and we are getting a few values in there. Okay, now let's go another 90 degrees. So another 90 degrees is going to be here, and we are looking at this line here now. So here we can say that the x-axis is 0 and our y-axis is -1 this time. Yes, so our x-axis is 0. Now let's see what angle that is. So 180 plus 90 is going to be 270, right? So 270 in radians. So we have cos 270 degrees is equals to 0, and sine 270 degrees is equals to -1, right? But what is that in the radians? So we have cos, okay? If you do not know by yourself, you can convert it, right? So 270 degrees, what we did was we did pi and then we added 90 degree to it. So if we solve that bracket, we have to times by 2. So that's going to give us 2 pi plus pi, which is 3 pi over 2. But you should know how to convert into radians as well. Okay, so here in this case, it is going to be 3 pi over 2, which is equals to 0, and sine 3 pi over 2 is equals to -1. All right, so far we have found these many values, all right? And now if we add another 90 degree, we are going to reach the same line. That means cos of 360 degree is equals to 1, and sine of 360 degree is 0. That means cos of 2 pi is equals to 1, and sine 2 pi is equals to 0, right? And then the same circle starts again. Okay, so these are the few basic values we can find without doing major calculations or major trig functions yet. Okay, so now let's go and dig deeper into unit circle and find these remaining values that we have to find. All right, so stay tuned. So far we have got the values of 0 degrees, 90 degrees, 180 degree, 270 degree, and 360 degrees. All right, so we have got these 4 values, and now let's start and find the coordinates of these missing points as well. All right, so now let's do that. So make sure you remember that the first point is cos theta and the second point is sine theta, because that's going to be used quite a bit. So in the first quadrant, we know that both the values are positive, all right? So that means the sine values are also greater than 0, and your cos values are also greater than 0. So they are both positive in first quadrant. Right, so that's the first thing. The second thing is, in our previous video we have found all the exact values of sine, cos, tan, and all other trig functions. We will just use the sine and cos today in this video, and I have cherry picked them and wrote down here just for an easy use. So now let's get started. The first angle, we know here the initial side was 0 degree and we have found those values. The next angle here is 30 degrees, right? So that angle is 30 degrees, and in the radians we know that that angle is pi over 6, right? So we can use radians or degrees, doesn't matter, but it's just good to know that the angle in radians is pi over 6 here. Now we have to use these two values here. So we are using these values here, these two values, the sine and cos values. So the first value is, we know that it is cos theta, so it's going to be root 3 over 2. So first value is root 3 over 2, comma, the second value is sine, and it is half. Right, so root 3 over 2 and half. That is the first quadrant for the 30 degrees, right? So the next angle is 45 degrees, and 45 degrees in radians is pi over 4, right? So now that is pi over 4, and if we find those values here, we are just going to use those two values, so they are same, 1 over root 2, 1 over root 2. So cosine is 1 over root 2, comma 1 over root 2. It's always good to have that table next to you, just for an easier use. All right, the next angle is 60 degrees. 60 degrees is pi over 3. All right, so pi over 3, and so we're going to use these two values. So cosine is half and sine is root 3 over 2, and we have done 90 degrees already. All right, so that completes our first quadrant. All right, let's fill in the other values as well. So that is 30 degrees, and 30 degrees is also pi over 6. The next one is 45 degrees, and 45 degrees is pi over 4. Next is 60 degrees, and 60 degrees is pi over 3. All right, and now we have those values at the side as well. Okay, now let's focus on the next quadrant. Now let's find the coordinates for the second quadrant, and in the second quadrant now we are going to use a new term which is called reference angle. Okay, so what is reference angle? Reference angle is an acute angle. Okay, so it is an acute angle, which is where the terminal side is made with the x-axis. Okay, so the angle that is made between the terminal side and the x-axis, right? There needs to be x-axis as one of the initial sides. So like, let us suppose this and this is an acute angle, right? And this can be used as a reference angle on the side. But when it comes for the second quadrant, so if we look at the second quadrant, and this is your x-axis, right? So this needs to be your initial side, and then your terminal side can be whichever angle we want. So now the first one is this angle that we want, so we need to find what is that angle, right? So now here with the terminal side, this angle is formed, and this angle is 60 degrees. Right, so when this is 60 degree angle, we can find what is this angle here. So the standard angle is going to be 180 take away 60, which is 120. Right, so your reference angle is the acute angle, so that is your reference, and that reference angle help you find all these angles. All right, and that also helps us find the values. Now here, if it is 180 minus 60 degrees, we can use the values of those 60 degrees, the coordinates of those 60 degrees. All right, so let's write those coordinates first, and then let's see what is the difference in those coordinates. Now here the x-axis was positive, so the x quadrant was positive and the y quadrant was also positive. Whereas in the second quadrant, the x-axis is negative, so the x value should be negative and the y value is still positive. All right, so that was the case of reference angle for 60 degree. Now I'll just rub that off to make it easier to find the next one. So next one now is, let's use a different color. It goes to the green one here, right? And the green angle is now 45 degrees. So this angle here is going to be 180 take away 45, which gives you 135, right? So that angle is 135. Again, now this time we are going to use the coordinates which are of 45 degrees, all right? So let's write those here. And again, the x-axis is negative here, so it's going to be minus 1 over root 2, comma 1 over root 2. Right? So similarly, the next one is 30 degrees. So next one, let us suppose here, and that angle now is 30 degrees. So this is going to be 180, take away 30, which gives us 150. Yes, so the standard angle is going to be 150 degrees. Okay, now here the sides are going, the coordinates are going to be minus root 3 over 2, comma half. All right, let's go to the third quadrant. Now the third quadrant is again in the similar way, we are going to use reference angle there as well. So the first reference angle is going to be, again, the x-axis is our initial line, and then our terminal line will be this one here, and that angle is, see, you can see the vertically opposite angle with the 30 degree. So that angle is 30 degree, but here we have 180 degree plus 30 degree. All right, so this is 180 plus 30 degree, which is equals to 210 as a standard angle. All right, so that entire angle is 210. Again, it goes with 30 degrees, so we are going to use the same values as 30 degrees. All right, so here in the bracket, let's write the values of 30 degree, which is root 3 over 2, comma half. X-axis is negative and the y-axis is also negative. So in this side, both x-axis is negative. So x-axis is less than 0 and y-axis is also less than 0 because it is the third quadrant, right? So here both those values goes negative. So we are using this line this time, and here in this one we have to use 45 degrees. All right, it's going to be 180 plus 45, which is 225, right? So our angle is 225. And let's write those values down now. So the values of 45 degrees is 1 over root 2, comma 1 over root 2, and it needs to be both negative. So the next angle is going to be 180 plus 60, which is 240 degrees. So the next angle is 240. So again, we are going to write the values of 60 degree, which is half and root 3 over 2. So half and root 3 over 2, but both needs to be negative in this third quadrant, all right? So we've done the third quadrant. Now we are at the last quadrant. At the end, we are going to convert all those angles into radians as well and complete the entire unit circle. All right, tidy up the entire unit circle. So make sure you stay tuned till the end. Now the fourth quadrant here, in the fourth quadrant we can see that x-axis is positive. That means the cos value is positive, and y-axis is less than 0, it's negative, so the sine values are going to be negative. All right, again, now let's see the reference angle. So the reference angle here is going to start from x-axis, and then let's start with that angle first. So we are going to use that angle, and that angle is 30 degrees as we know, and it is going to be, so if that angle is 0 degree here, this is on the opposite side, so it's going to be minus 30 degree, or you can say 360 minus 30 degrees. All right, so either you can write it as minus 30 degree as an angle, or you can write 360 minus 30, which is 330 degrees. All right, so those are the in degrees. We are going to do radians separately. I don't want to overcomplicate the unit circle here right now. All right, so we are going to use the values of the 30 degree, which is root 3 over 2, comma half. And here we know that the sine is the negative value, so we are going to make the sine negative. All right, now the next reference angle is going to be, again, the base is x-axis, and it's that, which is 45 degrees, so it's going to be 360 minus 45 degrees, or just minus 45 degrees as an angle, so it is 315 degrees. And again, write the values of 45 degree, 1 over root 2, 1 over root 2, and make sine as negative. Okay, sine value is negative. The last one here is this angle here. So this angle will be 60 degrees. So 360 minus 60 is 300 degrees, or minus 60 degrees. So it is going to give us again half and minus root 3 over 2. All right, and this completes our entire unit circle. Now let's take a tidy up version and fill in all the values in radians, degrees, and all the values. Just a tidy up version of that. All right. All right, now let's do a final tidy up or a final review of what we have learned so far. Right, so we have done that in the first quadrant, both cos values and sine values are positive. So both are greater than 0, right? They are both positive, right? In the second quadrant, our cos values are negative. So cos theta is less than 0, whereas sine theta remains positive. Right, in the third quadrant we have both the values negative, right? Both sine theta and cos theta is negative, whereas in the fourth quadrant we have cos theta positive and sine theta negative. Right, so here it's both positive, here that is negative and this is positive, both negative, and here cos is positive and sine is negative. Right, so that's the first thing we have done. So now let's start with the coordinates first. So the coordinates of 0 degrees or 0 radians, so 0 degrees or 0 radians is equals to, or 0 radians, let's just write it there, is 1 comma 0. The next one is 30 degrees. 30 degrees and 30 degrees becomes pi over 6, and its values are root 3 over 2 comma half. Right, both are positive. The next one is 45 degrees, and 45 degrees is pi over 4, and their values is root 1 over root 2 comma 1 over root 2. Right, the next value here is 60 degrees and 60 degrees. 60 degrees and 60 degrees is root pi over 3, and the values here is half comma root 3 over 2. Right, the next value is pi over 2, which is 90 degrees. It is pi over 2, and the values here are 0 comma 1. So that is our first quadrant. The next value was 120, which is 2 pi over 3, right? And it is minus 1 over 2 comma root 3 over 2. It's always good to learn how to convert from radians to degrees or degrees to radians, which I have covered in the previous video, right? So you can go back and have a look of how to convert between radians and degrees. All right, the next one is 135 degrees, and 135 degrees is 3 pi over 4, and the values here is 1 over root 2, minus 1 over root 2, and then 1 over root 2. So its cos is negative. The next one is 150, and 150 degrees is 5 pi over 6. All right, and 5 pi over 6, the values is minus root 3 over 2 comma half. Right, so minus root 3 over 2. The next one is pi, which is our 180 degrees, and their values is minus 1 over 0. All right, now let's go to our third one. So third one is 110 degrees and 110 degrees, sorry, 210 degrees, and 210 degrees is 7 pi over 6, and the values is minus root 3 over 2 comma minus 1 over 2. Both are negative. The next is 225. 225 is 5 pi over 4. Right, and the values are minus 1 over root 2 comma minus 1 over root 2. The next value is 420. 420 becomes 4 pi over 3, and the values for 4 pi over 3 is 1 over 2 comma minus root 3 over 2. Right, the next is 270 degrees, which is 3 pi over 2, and it is 0 comma minus 1. Now let's go to the last quadrant, the fourth quadrant. So the next value is 300 degrees. 300 degrees become 5 pi over 3, right, which is 1 over 2 comma minus root 3 over 2, because here the sine values are, the y values are negative, or the sine values are negative. The next is 315 degrees, and 315 becomes 7 pi over 4, which is 1 over root 2 comma minus 1 over root 2. And the last one is 330 degrees, which becomes 11 pi over 6, right? And that is root 3 over 2 comma minus 1 over 2. All right, so now I would say take a blank sheet and see if you are able to fill in the entire table yourself or not, entire unit circle yourself or not. I hope this makes sense.